Okay, this is a Sicha printed Likkutei Sichos Gimel, volume 23, Shavuos, Sicha base, page 27, Likkutei Sichos. Aleph. The Yom Tov in Shavuos is ausgeteld von die Adre de Golim, damit was hakol meiden batzeres de bina nami lachem my time yem shnitnu boi terehu. Now the Gemara says that amongst all the Yom Tovim, what is unique about Shavuos? The Gemara says that all in agreement that Shavuos atzeres is also for you. In other words, that the person has to have physical pleasure. Why? Where it says, because this is the day the Torah was given. And then it explains, by the Adre Yom Tovim is Frana Pluxet, sie meken sich vielen Eifen for Kolel Hashem, but es muss sein, Chetzi Lachem. There's a machlekes amongst, in the Gemara, about other festivals, whether a person can act in a manner of Kolel Hashem, entirely for Hashem. In other words, he says, I want to sit and daven, I want to sit and learn, I don't want to eat, I don't want to busy myself with food. If he's allowed to do that. Or there has to be at least half for you. In other words, the person has to sit and actually have a physical meal. Shavuos an alle meide, the beginning nami lachem. Sheyismach boi b'meichel mishta, v'haris sheneach u'makubuyim zel yisol shnitnu Torah boi. And Rashi explains over there that when it comes to Shavuos, everyone agrees that it needs to be for you. Why? Rashi explains, because a person, what does that mean? A person has to rejoice in this day with food and drink to show that this day, when the Torah was given, it's accepted and beloved by all Yidden. Now, that's what Rashi says in the Gemara. Now, even according to the Pesach halacha that Rambam says, and Alter Rebbe brings down the Shulchan Aruch, as be'al Yom Tov muzan chetzi lachem umdarf prav silchas Yom Tov b'meichel mishta. Now, even though we pass on the halacha that all Yom Tovim, Pesach is that it has to be half for you, and the Yom Tov must be celebrated with food and drink. It's like als fanan achilik for Shavuos to get out of the under the goal. Nevertheless, there's still a difference between Shavuos and other Yom Tovim. By Shah Yom Tovim Shabbos, when it comes to other Yom Tovim and Shabbos, is there din as we make fast in Atainis Cholim. Halacha is by other festivals and Shabbos that a person is permitted to fast Atainis Cholim. A fast that person takes upon himself because he had a disturbing dream. So now he wants to fast on this day. So the halacha is that other Yom Tovim and Shabbos, one is allowed to do that. Even though there is a obligation to actually have pleasure of Shabbos and Yom Tov, now, since the Tainis Cholim, for him this is pleasure, since otherwise he would have remained in distress by his dream. So that's the thing. According to halacha, a person is allowed to on Yom Tov and Shabbos to fast the Tainis Cholim. However, when it comes to Chag Shavuos, is v'bal das tzorech le'echol l'smech be'laharis shenech mekubal. Yisrael yem shenit be'ateda. However, when it comes to Shavuos, since this is the day that all must eat and rejoice on it to show that this day when the Torah was given is accepted and beloved by the Yidden, Tor minit fasten king Tainis Cholim. You're not allowed to fast a Tainis Cholim. Go on, go ahead. Diet. That says, as bechag Shavuos is voran nit nur der chiyuv von einig bechlal, b'mila can das sein durch dem einig for Tainis Cholim, which means that on Shavuos there's not only an obligation to have pleasure in general, which could be experienced by fasting, nor achiyuv achila. There's dafka an obligation to actually eat on Yom Tov. Tzarech le'echol laharis shenechem mekubal. As Rashi says, person has to eat to show that this day is accepted and beloved by all Yidden. So the emphasis of this. In plugs is adavar tamor. In theory, this is very one thing. It's puzzling. They made in Pesach and Sukkot and Nach. The Sicha beikert zu chasodim gashver. Die Chedes von Shibud Mitzrayim bePesach und beSukkot Seshatis ben Yisrael beitziris Eisam Eretz Mitzrayim. Then an Yaakov shekifim behem letzel leval Yaakov behem shadow v'shemesh. Von deswegen kann bei sie sein afal as er chiva einig wird ausgeführt nicht durch so der Gashver, sondern verkehrt durch Hatainis. Now, On all Yom Tevim, the Yom Tevim of Pesach and Sukkot, they commemorate primarily physical acts of kindness. So either you have, like by Shavuos, you have the Eden, how they were subjugated to Mitzrayim, and that I caused... Huh? Sorry. My bad. Pesach is the when Hashem says that I caused the Yidden to dwell. First of all, that I took the Yidden by Pesach out of Mitzrayim, and Sukkot, I caused the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I took them from the land of Mitzrayim. And we know the Ananei HaKoved, that encompassed them and gave them the shade, so they did not be struck by the scorching heat and sun. And what's the din? Nevertheless, there may be a situation for deswegen can by ze sein a fall when ze chiva einig wird ausgeführt nicht durch asad gashmis or verkehrt durch hatainis. Nevertheless, we find a situation where the obligation to enjoy the Yom Tov can be fulfilled through fasting and not through eating. So it's interesting when it comes to Sukkot and Pesach, which we're commemorating physical acts that Hashem did for us, that one is allowed to sit and his einig can be tanis cholam. Dafke bei Chag HaShavuos, jem shenitten bei Teda, was es in ganzen Ihnen von Chesed Ruchni, muss einig, the simple Yom Tov sein, allemal verbunden dafke mit Achille Gashmis, man tar derfahren nicht fasten, tanis cholam. My time of was is nitten bei Teda, and you find something interesting that when it comes to the actual Yom Tov of Shavuos, which is the day that the Torah was given, which is a complete spiritual act of kindness. How does one have to have delight and rejoice? It has to be connected dafka with physical eating, and it's forbidden to fast at tanis cholam. Why? Because this is a direct result of the day that the Torah was given. So, good morning. So we have to understand why this is a daf Shavuos, which is the day that the Torah was given. Everybody agrees, number one, that you need to have atzeres devina nam lachem, you have to eat. And even la halacha, that we find that, yes, it has to be chetzi lachem, but even in Shabbos Yom Tov, for once, he's allowed to fast at tanis cholam. Mashenki, when it comes to Shavuos, he's not allowed to, his einig cannot be with a tanis cholam.
Until you do get him out in the...
Oh... All right, that's chassidus, but this is a thing without chassidus. Yeah, it's interesting if you look, and all the Shavuos Sichos of the Rebbe, every single one has one. This Likkutei, they're going to see every question that Rebbe asks about Shavuos. Why Anechi? Why the first letter of why the first word of Asar Zedibris is an Egyptian word? Why there was no baskel? How could he even fall asleep the night before Shavuos? This Sicha. Sicha Bar Metzra. Every single Sicha you go to look at the Sichas has this one Likkutei. Okay, so now, but let's focus on this question. Base. So verstehen das, darum früher war sein dem Kolel together for the Chiyuv Einig Shabbos Yom Tov. To better understand this, we first have to clarify the general classification of the obligation to have pleasure on Shabbos and Yom Tov. The Yikar Chiyuv Einig Shabbos Yom Tov is daftu b'chilul shasiyah. The primary obligation to have pleasure on Shabbos and Yom Tov is daftu with eating and drinking. Was there fires the din? Azavol be as min meg fast on the tanis cholam b'Shabbos and Yom Tov. So the halacha is that even though a person has a lot of fast of Shabbos and Yom Tov, von deswegen, then was hat gefast, darf noch dem fasten oi tanis b'choil she's kaperlei. Nevertheless, the din is that even though a person has a lot of fast, so the primary obligation on Yom Tov Shabbos is to eat. So the halacha is that although tanis cholam is permitted on Shabbos and Yom Tov, a person who fasted must later fast one additional day during the week as a kapara, because through his tanis cholam on Shabbos, he basically was mevatel, the primary expression of any Shabbos, of Shabbos delight.
What was the point from fasting?
Because that's his einig. That's his einig. If he eats, he's going to be distressed. So his einig is to fast. Okay. Enough merit. the Rebbe says more so. The heter to fast on the Shabbos is nor by Tanis Cholam, other by Einem was Achila b'Shabbos Sarhulay. Now, this that Chazal allow, or Allah allows that on Shabbos and Yom Tov, you're allowed to, specifically for a Tanis Cholam, is because eating is a tsar for him, over a Tanis was Zayid, feel fast and sleep on Adra Siva. I feel the Machmas True Chassidus, when Yesh like Tanis is Aser. But Eile lahachlav any chachamim shetiknu begimel sudis or any acher she'enim bochach shiur b'Shabbos. Now, the only heter that a person is allowed to fast on Shabbos is a tainus kolam. If he has a bad dream, because that's only for him is to fast. Let's say a person wants to do tshuva, and he wants to have a Shabbos that he doesn't eat at all. The din is that one is not allowed to do that. Why? Because a person is not allowed to exchange what the Chacham set up. And the Chacham set up, there has to be 3 Shabbos meals. For another type of pleasure, need not necessarily be observed on Shabbos. So the Rebbe says of this, Daven Marshtemi have to understand. Balas the din einig is nit achila kishlatzma, nor blois to live them einig shabbat, mitzvah suda shabbat einig el b'shul einig. Now, since the obligation to have pleasure is not about eating itself, but rather for the pleasurable aspect within it, mitzvah Shabbos ein ela b'shul einig. As we know, the only mitzvah to eat on Shabbos because of the pleasure derives from it. Based on there any Shabbos Yom Tov wird verrechnet, die mitzvah was is tolle bedasa adam, but we make fast and atanis cholam mishum atanis anyway. Till you see that the pleasure in Shabbos and Yom Tov is considered a mitzvah that is dependent on the person's mindset. The fact that a person can undertake the Tanis Cholam, since that brings him pleasure. So why can't we exchange the pleasure that the Chachamim ordained for another type of pleasure? Everybody should have their own God. One guy says he likes to, likes to sit in the sun, so that any Shabbos should be in the sun. This guy wants to fast, so any Shabbos should be for him. This guy likes to eat likes to different examples. Point is, why did the Chazal institute the dafka? Only has to be through food. It's not about eating. It's about what the food brings. So if somebody has a different way to get pleasure, let him do it that way. Yes, the majority of people derive pleasure from eating and drinking, typically from eating meat and drinking wine. Das ist aber klar nicht machriach als beim Miut in an andere Öfen von Tainus, wie der Duma die welche haben a Tainus von Tainus zu Tshuva, soll bei sehen nicht heißen kein Enig. Now, this should not mean for some people that if they have an alternative mode, for example, those who take pleasure from fasting or for Tshuva, should not be considered a pleasure. So we said in order to understand this, we have to understand what's the chiyuv and the gather of Eini Shabbos and Yom Tov. We know Chazal instituted that it's tafka on food and drink. And that's why, even though a person is allowed to fast the Tanis Cholam on Shabbos, nevertheless, he has to make it up during the week because he was Mavatal Iker Eini Shabbos. And we said even more so, only dafka Tanis Cholam, but let's say Tanis Shul that's not allowed. So the Rebbe asked, why the Chazal instituted dafka on food and drink? Einig should be whatever this person feels his einig is, whatever he enjoys. So the Rebbe says in Gimel, is the beer and them? The explanation is as follows: Teire mitzvahs an gegeben geworden zu Jiden, wie sie seinen Neshamis begufem dafke. Was ab ve'ein yesh lachem. Teire mitzvahs were given to the Yidden specifically as Neshamis into the body. As Moshe Rabbeinu answered the Malachim when they said, Tno Hitzal HaShamayim. So Moshe said, do you have a father and mother between you? You don't have this. In other words, Teir is not the Getzio. When the Tandaruf is, of the tikkun was mitzvahs to and off, in them mentioned Kamam Razal the nitla mitzvahs el tzar behem es abrius. Is nitzul the neshama la'atzman v'rom neshama atzman nitzich tikkun. Zu dem Guf, als euch der Guf von Aiden soll werden Saruf und durchgenommen mit Klishas und Mitzvahs. Now, the Mitzvahs were given, as you know, the Mitzvahs were given only to refine people through them. And the refinement is not for the Neshama itself, because we know the Neshama doesn't need to have any rectification. Rather, it's for the body. The body of a Yid should also become refined and permeated with the Kedusha of Mitzvahs. If one is verstandig, on this basis we can understand, as those was taken up on Shavuos or the Yom Tov darf sein as a man von Enig by Yidin, Lachem. So this, the Teda says, that on Shavuos and Yom Tov has to be a time of Lachem for you, and we'll make this nit, as nur die Neshama soll haben Teilig Ruchni von Shavuos and Yom Tov. Doesn't mean that only the Neshama should have a spiritual Teilig on Shavuos and Yom Tov, or from Shavuos and Yom Tov, nur as euch der Guf so fill an Enig davon, was das is Yom HaShabbos Yom Tov. That the body itself also should have and feel the pleasure of Shabbos Yom Tov. Adrab the Ikar Mechoven von dem Mitzvah is dafke der Tzarf dem Guf. On the contrary, the primary intent of the mitzvah is specifically to refine the body. Mibal as a tiny tivi von a Guf is von a Chilush Asiyah. Since the body's natural pleasure comes from eating and drinking, the Rebbe Zok Teda as Chiyuv Ha'enig is Dorach Achila Dafka. That's why the Teda says that the Chiyuv of pleasure is Dafka through eating. Well, Dafka Ba'if Zev Vert Ufketan as der Enig Shabbos is Mitzaref Nem Dorach the mention. That Nem Dorach Kuf Memch. Because Dafka, since the natural Tainug of a body is through eating and drinking, therefore Torah says the chiyuv is dafka through eating. Because dafka in this way is the Enig Shabbos refined. However, when it comes to the fast of tshuva, is doch das nit kein hano in it fahren guf. It's not a hano for the actual body, nor a tainus ruchni for the neshama. It's only a tainus ruchni for the neshama. When I feel of an ayid, od gepoiled, a yuzich, hazayin guf, so on its feeling came tsar from the tainus. And even when a yid was able to be poil on himself, that his body should not feel any tsar from the tainus, or the nachmer more so, oich der guf, the filth, a gewissen einig davon, was the neshama hat ateinig, ader der shmo tevet tadashen etzem kifshuti. Even more so, even when he trained his body to feel good from the soul's pleasure, as it says, just as hearing good news can literally make a person's bones like fat, so he's able to train his body that even his body has hana from the ruchni. Is doch das aber nicht kein einig hat Guf mit Zeit Atzwei. Ist also misanig sein von Ashmo, oder von Ateines. Und mit Zeit der Schlite, Beteva, oder durch Aveda, von der Neshama afilu Guf. Hepes Teva Guf afilu von a Guf Tzor of the Kodesh. But he said, the Rebbe says that nevertheless, this is not the body's own pleasure. The body does not experience pleasure for the news of the fast. The pleasure is only a result of the neshama's control. Either it's innate or it's acquired over the body, contrary to the body's nature. Even if it's the body of a refined or holy person. When the Rebbe Tarmin Shabbos v'Yontiv it's fast and azat tainus for tshuva, therefore, this type of fast or tshuva is forbidden on Shabbos and Yom Tov, even if he takes pleasure in the fast. Rather, a person has to enjoy the Shabbos or Yom Tov by eating and drinking something physically pleasurable. My time is that din I feel by Tainus Chol the Shabbos Getzibza Chosh Matos Yom Matigimen as Medarf if dem Kapara Yes Mat durch dem Matigimen Iko Ening Shabbos. So the Rebbe says that for this reason, for the ruling that even when it comes to Tainas Cholam on Shabbos, although the fast is indeed permitted, you still need to have a kapara. For by fasting on Shabbos, we have mevatel, the ikar enig of Shabbos. Okay, so what we said in Gimel is Torah mitzvahs were given with a neshama in a guf, and the purpose is to refine the actual guf, not the neshama, because the neshama does not need to have tikkun. So this Torah says that now we can understand why Torah says that Shabbos is to have lachem, because the purpose is that the neshama should also have a oinik. And since the tainug, the natural tainug of a guf is eating and drinking, that's what Chazal said. We have to have eating and drinking. When I'm saying in a tainug of sugar, it's not you're not giving the guf what he needs. You're only giving the neshama what's in it. You're able to poil that the guf itself should enjoy as well, but that's not natural. And that's why on Shabbos Yom Tov, if one does fast, he needs to make it up in another time because there's Mavat with Iku Enik Shabbos. Okay, let's stop there. Okay, so we're holding Ois Dalit. The Shleimer that Rebbe says, as das is Eich the Tam, al derech Aremes of them, this is another reason, Sagamas and Shulchan werden gebracht, und Zugab zu Tainas Cholam. And not found that this is da hätte nicht zu essen oder zu fasten b'Shabbos. Al das is farim and einig. Now, this is another reason, which in Shulchan Aruch, if you look in over there in the end of Rish Peches, so it brings other examples, other times that one is allowed to fast on Shabbos. By an adam she'echile mazekes loy. For example, if a person food hurts him, it damages him. She'oz einig hu shleila achel. So the einig is that he should not eat. Or the einig was is angewohnt to fast in b'chol yom. For example, somebody who is accustomed to eating all day, to fasting all day, achile b'Shabbos saru lim ne'shinei veses. So by eating on Shabbos, that is a sarfim because he's changing his cycle. That's right. Nevertheless, nevertheless, the only thing that the Gemara, which is the Gemara in Shabbos and Tainis and other places, that one is allowed to fast is on Tainis Cholam. Was der Fun is verstandig, at the Yesod the head from under the following is a din for Tainis Cholam. So what's the foundation of this heter to fast in Shabbos? It all stems from a Tainis Cholam. For them, like when as mitzvahs in Shabbos, there was nit kein chiyuv achila for azif, like so them enig shabbat. Or the liber, when the adam is sich misanig from nit essen, wegen fasten. So what do we see from here? That the food, person eating is not for the eating itself, rather it's for the action, it's for the result. So if his enig is not to eat, so he's a lot of fast. You can say, as the time was Chazal haben Bücher gewinnt, so sagen them had to dafka by Tainas Cholam. So you can say, what's the reason why Chazal chose that there should be dafka by Tainas Cholam? Can they mit zum Ramazan to allude us to him, as the Mitzvah Adel from Tainas B'Shabbos, is the time of the year, a matzah was minea yidim melasag by Phil Shatir, Nebzah the fun was is an amatzah from Cholam Dufnit. Shine be'elam megolas from the Risham Beguf, nachwer for Shine be'ester goes to Futus. The Rebbe says beautifully, that where does this Yisrael come from? It comes from Tainis Cholam. What does that mean, Baruch? It means that a person, how could it be that a person is in a matzav which is reluctant and he's holding himself back from having Tainis Achil Shasiyah, is because that comes from Tainis Cholam, which means that he's in a mind of the matzav of sleeping and concealment and gullus of the neshama and the guf. When Nachmer for Shinem Esther goes computer that there's a concealment of sleeping, there's a concealment in gullus itself can move forward. But Teda air, like the Alter Rebbe explains in Teda air and Parshas Vayeshev, like from Pasuk Vayinikochim, what does it mean that we're like the dreamers? As Ponk V'Afchalim is Mechaber Shnei Afchal Medei Se'Afchal, just like a dream. It's possible to have two opposite topics in a dream, right? You can have a dream, like the Gemara says, of a elephant going to a needle's hole, Aber es ist wenn es da the Seichel on his bike, it was the Keach HaMedama. Because when a person sleeps, the intellect basically goes away, and all he has is the Keach of imagination. As I said, by eating is Managalas, so the same thing is by in Managalas, the Alphabetic Sunt and Tereid, as to them hell of a hester from Golas, is Stefas basically as basically his own sign, basically what of him. So it's possible in the time of Golas, they can have two opposite extremes. Shas and davening are statement on Atrof and the Seidus Amitis Bachota Teba. A person's davening is in a way of good achlatas, and he really means it. Nothing davening is thus vergessen werden after the kach, as can sich feeling happen from them, was mafet will beschlossen feeling, and then after davening, he can act in a way which was opposite by davening, what he decided. Why? Warum wie scheint bei ihnen as azaf, as the Tag for Shabbos of the Yom Tov, was his Amitzvah la'angeh b'chilus shasir, soll sein Guf im Mineh sein von dem Teinig. So how's it possible? So back to the theme. So how's it possible that a person on the day of Shabbos and Yom Tov, which is a mitzvah to eat and drink, he should hold himself back? Und dort hat sich nicht wegen ihnen, was tut Hebach hat Chas V'Shalom. Nur wegen Azar, was ist sich mustadel zufrieden zu kapitären, und für deswegen sein Guf in the Massen zum Bekabel sein auf dem einen. We're talking about somebody that is not going contrary. He's not conducting himself opposite Teda. We're talking about somebody who's has great efforts to be up Teda. Nevertheless, his body is not. He doesn't want anything. He's not Mekabel in it. Is just the far was is in a mind with the massive of Cholam has to invest, because he himself is in a situation of exile. As Taka Yid was for Tzachabi Teda, but zusammen damit is that erste was der Los nicht als der innige Shabbos soll durchnehmen, bis als ich sein Guf soll der Hemming to the boy as his Shabbos, which means that this person is in a situation of Golas, which yes, he is conducting himself al B'Teda, but with that, he also has concealment that does not allow him, he has something which is holding him back, he has a blockage which holds him back that he cannot have proper Einig Shabbos. Wenn bei ihm wollte der Hester nicht gewinnen, weil der bei Yikacheu von dem Zman, was das ist der Yom Shabbos, oder Yom Tov Gepel, of sein Guf. So, if he didn't have this blockage, then the holiness of the day would affect his body, as Heinz or Yahab and Tainuk, von Achila, that he should have the Tainuk of eating Chachos B'Shas Misa Shana, is just even though during the whole year, it's different, he doesn't eat. Shabbos is Atag was bring Tainuk in Alin Yonim, because Shabbos is a day which brings pleasure in all things. Balach Teda is in Yonitz above one and gefin in Eitzes. After little fire Zabas gefin sich in a Zustand von Chalon, wie steht auf Teda, as pelt, as their pool is the Hadam and Tatamim and Atar. Now, since Teda, what's Teda? Teda is, it gives us some counsel, gives us advice, how to, even when somebody is aware of a dream, that it's able to Teda is to separate between Tummy and Tar. The Tummy and Tar is on Tzvei Havchem. We know Tummy and Tar are two opposites. Shavuos, Tarf and Onkum, to Teda is to Mavels and Tzvishin Zeh. Why do you have to have Teda to separate it? Or Baldeira, and Siyuf and Teda is, Oyichafar Azavas is in a Matzah for Shinu V'Cholam, when it can fire to knife mission to Alpha from Tavitar. Since this person is in the Maimon Matzah of sleeping, and he's able to mix up these two opposites of Tavitar, lots of Hadab Teda, so in on his Mavdum and not Torah and not Tamar. So Torah comes and tells us that only Torah can come and separate the two. The Dibber get Torah Eichan Eitzit, so then was sleep Hester is ein Guf in Meneim Achilu Shabbos Yom. So therefore Torah gives a counsel and advice to somebody who's holding himself back from Achilu Shabbos Yom. He is imated to fasten. Torah allows you to fast on Shabbos. Vibala as in Zain Istik and Matziv is thus Zain Tainid, because since he's, and this is for now, this is his Tainid, so that's why Torah gives a person the right to do that. Okay, let's finish up on it. Hey, a PNL, that they verstehen, that when they verstehen the Shavuos zwischen Shavuos and Shadar Yom Tov. So that way you'll understand the difference between Shabbos and the Yom Tov and Manteno. In Shavuos. The Chiddush in the Hiskalas of the Kisvashas Manteno, the under the Giloim and the Medim is one of them. What's the Chiddush of Manteno, other Medim? Also Mantera, das Durchkommen in the ganze Brie. We know that by Mantera, the Eberster, everything was penetrated, all Brias. But you state as the kill from Mantera, you had all the roofs in Weilam water. We know the voice, the Mantera, was able to permeate all four corners of the world. These are simply that no birds was chirping and no share was gory. It was like goring. Was groaning. The world was quiet. Und auch wenn der Kehl von der Assessor, der was nicht geworden, auch feeling them dem von der Welt. You had to Amobaruf as the fire is not given kein Baskel from the Kehl. Assessor, there was no echo of Assessor because it permeated everything. But the fire was from Manteides given is Galt from Atros and Musalin was such a Kiviofa and Angevin in Teda because the essence of Hashem was revealed in Teda, in the world. Remember Chazal as the word Anechi, I saw the Assessor with Manteides, if it was another Ashik, so it was Anechi Mishanechi, Atros Alin. So that's Gita rank. So it's obvious and Atmos Nafshi and Teda, like we know that the Anaish is a non-Nafshi. So it's obvious that Hashem put his essence in Teda. If all the says their believable ambiti is the talking earth was in his gods their line zich was the far man Teda grew from in Gatsabri. So since we're talking about Atmos over here, it was able to permeate everything. No place was untouched. Or the mitzvah the Earth time move on, the town was turn its fast and Ketanas Chol Chagashu the far was thus the same shit in Betida. Why can't not fast? Because this is the Teda was given. Balas Chagashu is the Mimshit in Betida. Was das der Durchnehmen in die ganze Bria und kein Balla, da vielleicht die simple Chagashu da sein Bilti Mugballas, bis als es soll nicht sein kann, or by mention, was der great the simple Mantera, since this is the day that the Atmos was revealed, so you can't have a place which suits the Simcha and you can't have a limitation on the Simcha. Out of the MTV, well, this is verbunden mit Eres Regelung, kennt ihr Besein an Ort, was Fahrhester Kolel, was es mir verstellt, if dem Simcha, aber if dem Simcha Mantera ist nicht schreifen Hester, es nimmt dort alle mit Madrigas. Und mal viele in die Madrigas sagt, ich dachte, Herzfries ist näher von Kuba der Ingen von Mantera. Aber jeder kommt es herab, I feel on Elam Achalem is I feel when einer der Cholem was gewöhnlich gewollt ist, nicht der Los als ein Golf soll kennen haben und eine Machila tut of the Simcha von Shavuos, since the Simcha Shavuos is so unlimited Simcha, you're able to be quite as by him wird das Simcha should be by Simcha, aber by him is näher von Makub, ihm von der Mitzvah. Okay, have a good day. Bye.